Can you put up the flag for the pledge?
I'm on it.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
Flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The minutes of the January 12th, 2021 meeting are on pages 1 to 3 of, as you see on the screen now. And we should have had plenty of time to review it prior to now. Are there any additions, corrections, or comments on the minutes at this time? Any comments, questions, additions, corrections? Hearing none, I'd ask for a motion to approve.
Kay Nelson, move to approve.
Thank you, Kay. Do we have a second? A second to approve the minutes?
Second, Blossom Mabon.
Thank you, Blossom. Can we just do a voice vote, or do we need? We should do a roll call, I guess. Floor, do you have the sheet?
I do. Thank you. Tom McDermott or Dean Button?
yes.
Thank you. Michael Griffin? Matt Murphy?
Yes.
Thank you. David Wright?
Yes.
Blossom Mabon?
Yes.
Thank you. Beth Schrader?
Here.
Thank you. Beth West?
Yes.
Thank you. Robin Tillman? Nicole Barker or Kelly Wenger?
Yes.
Thank you. Kay Nelson?
Yes.
Okay, and that concludes that, and we have 8.
Well, I vote yes too.
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed you. Oh, I'm sorry, hold on, guys. I scrolled too far up. Sheila Brilson? Okay, Kevin, you said yes.
Yes.
George Toppel? All right, Mark Odell?
Yes.
Thank you. Anthony Copeland or Frank Rivera? Right, and that is 10 total.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to our programming at 3.1, fiscal year 2025 to 2026 NOFA project programming on page 4. It's a big spreadsheet. Charles Bradsky will present on recommendations for new projects in our 2022-2026 transportation improvement program. And the action that's requested is a vote to recommend to the NERC Commission. Please, Charles.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Did we do the public comment?
Oh, I'm sorry. Let's step back for a minute. Do we have any public comment today? It's an opportunity for comments from members of the audience. The amount of time available to speak will be limited to 3 minutes or to the discretion of the chairman. Commenters must indicate their wish to comment and also give their name and address. Do we have anybody for public comment at all? Hearing none, let's move on to programming as we started. Charles?
Yes, good morning, everyone. First off, I'd like to say I was asked to put this together for T-Rock, and I barely got it to present to T-Rock at the end of January. So as in the night before I finished it. And as I said at T-Rock, this is a starting point for discussion. Basically what I did, and when I'll show you what I did, how I went through, I looked at the highest scoring projects, and I had the LPA or the sponsor hidden or the project hidden. So to keep it as unbiased as possible. So I will share my screen, and we will, I think everyone can see this. What I have is shown up here is just the multi-use paths. And we can see their scores, their rankings within there, and then what year they got funding. And I put in 23, 24, 25, and 26. So we had two projects that were tied for first place. They both got, so therefore they both were funded. The first one is 2025, and that is, it was Crown Point for the Veterans Memorial and Penn State Greenway Trail. And that is, now that was the maximum that was in that category. So they had originally asked for 2.5 or 2.5 million. That's inflated, but I can only give them $2 million. Now we are operating in the absence of a federal highway bill. So if funds do become available through that, then we can fully fund this project if funds do increase. And if there's extra funds throughout the year in 2025, we could essentially give more funds to there. The other project that was tied for first was Valparaiso, provide a multi-use trail connection within our TOD, within their TOD, connecting the Chicago Dash bus stop to downtown. And that was just under $2 million. So those were two tied for first. We also have the third project is a project that is a joint project between Hammond, East Chicago, and NDOT. And it is putting a bike trail on a new bridge that NDOT is building on Michigan Street over Kennedy Avenue. So the cost there is in 2025 is $720,000. Actually, I showed this in 2024. I got an email yesterday from the project manager telling me that project is, the NDOT's project has been moved to 2025. So I do need to move this to 2025. And I do need to figure out where the funding is going to come for that. So that one is in there. And then number 4 is would be the Hammond, Marquette Greenway, Kennedy Avenue Trail. And that they're requesting $100,000 for PE. So that would create a new legacy project to be offered. Now I would like, I think Mitch has something to add at this point.
Yeah. So for those that are following along, Governor Holcomb reinstated the Next Level Trails program. And I've been talking with the Indiana DNR quite extensively over the last month about when they're going to actually release the projects that were first submitted under round 2. And no one's giving me a straight answer, but I will assume that within the month or so, we're going to get word of that. I know that there's at least 2, maybe more, maybe 3 projects that were submitted for Next Level Trails that are being considered for funding today. So much like we did a while back with like a B list, we will recycle some of the other projects in the program here, just the next score up, and we'll bring them back in if we have to fill in any gaps because of the Next Level Trails being awarded. And that will also apply for the phase 3 Next Level Trails funding, which should be announced probably by mid to late spring. So we'll keep all projects fresh, so to speak, no matter where they scored, to make sure that they can cycle in and fill gaps where necessary. So that's my PSA. Thanks, Charles.
Mhm. So that we would just put in the next, I believe the first 2 projects were submitted to the Next Level Trails. So that would tie up or free up for 2 additional projects, up to 2 additional projects.
Just to clarify, this is Beth Schrader from Valpo. The TOD trail was not submitted as Next Level Trails. We had a different trail submitted for that. So our request would stand as is.
Thank you, Beth. Yes, that was Crown Point and Hammond's projects, I think, were submitted. So, but thank you. So that was for Group 1 projects. For Group 2 projects, we have multi-use trails, the LaPorte County, Lincoln Trail Extension from Purdue Northwest south to connect up with the Lincoln Trail in Westville. That was put in for 2025. And then 2026 would be the Singing Sands Trail from Michigan City, phases A and C. And then phase 3A and phase 3C. And then the Singing Sands Trail phase 3D, I've got in 2024 for funding for right-of-way, and this would create a legacy project. Do we want to discuss any of these projects?
Can I ask a few questions?
Sure.
Sure.
What does the green highlight mean?
Which green? Mean the
I mean,
the
you have like
line?
rows
The row?
highlighted in green. Does that mean something, or? We also have green text occasionally.
The green text and the green highlight are actually they mean the same thing.
Okay.
They're just the projects that were chosen.
Okay.
So I don't have to, makes it easier to present.
Okay, I did try and print this. It got really small, so I was like, I don't know what green means. And then this is just all projects funded by highway money
Correct.
for 25 and 26, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then the folks whose amounts you changed, like if you could only fund a certain portion, did you notify them? And they're okay with it?
No, I did not. Because I don't want to give anyone, I wanted today's discussion, Kelly, I wanted today's discussion to be open, and I didn't want someone to be, now granted, I did share this list with everybody, but I also told everybody this is the starting point of discussion. So no, I did not discuss it with anybody. But I didn't want to give anybody any undue hope. And I guess if someone has any comments about not getting the full funding, we can discuss that.
Does anybody have any comments or discussion?
Will we be approving these kind of group by group or all at once?
I'll leave that to the chairman.
Yeah, let's do group 1 separate from group 2 since they're 2 different funds. And if you're going to make that motion,
I would move to approve the group 1 funding proposal as Charles Gradsky proposed.
I would like to clarify because we've only discussed multi-use paths.
right?
Oh, I thought we were doing it in groups that way too. I will rescind my motion if,
Thank you.
all right.
So do we want to discuss just group 1 or all projects in group 1 or just multi-use paths in group 1?
Well, currently we're discussing the multi-use paths. Do we have any more discussion on multi-use paths? Hearing none, let's just move on to the next list of group of projects.
Next group of projects would be complete streets. And there was only one project submitted in all of group 1 or group 2. And that was with Cedar Lake. And this is splitting up this project from 1 phase into 2 phases. Now, this project is the eastern phase for this project is in 2025. They've got PE in 2023. Now, in all of complete streets, there was roughly $1.725 million available in all of complete streets. However, in complete street sidewalks, there's only $370,000 available. So being this was the only project within the program of complete streets, I am recommending that they would get all the funding in complete streets. This may or may not create a legacy project, how you want to look at it. It is only funding 1 phase of it. However, both phases could stand alone. Looking at there's 2 phases, and I'd like to say that I did talk to the designer, Don, on this project, and the west phase has a railroad portion on it, railroad crossing. And I do not get warm feelings when I deal with the railroads. So, looking at this is just looking at the east side going from the Klein Avenue roundabout to the city park or the town hall.
So for clarity, we're committing to the east phase, but not the west phase at this time. Your concern is potentially just the understanding with the community and the possibility of creating a legacy.
Well, it could create a legacy, but it may also not, because it could be considered a standalone project. So, but I will leave that discussion for the next NOFA, for the continuing improvement standing working group for the next NOFA.
Anybody have any concerns or questions for Charles on complete streets application?
Mr. Chairman, this is Dean Button.
Yes.
Thank you. So I think Charles and the NERC team did a fantastic job, working very hard to put all these projects together and corral us LPAs. So and with all due respect to our friends and colleagues at Cedar Lake, is it possible in this instance for a representative from Cedar Lake or their designer explain what this project is, please?
Yeah, Dean, I can take that. This is essentially, I mean, as an all-encompassing project, this essentially attaches a walking path all the way from their central business district on the west side of town around the lake to basically town hall grounds. The east portion of it, which is from the Klein Avenue Roundabout to Town Hall, is by far the easiest of the two because it doesn't have the railroad crossing. And even there's some development in the pipeline along the west corridor that may actually shrink that project. So in the timeline, you know, moving to the next NOFA after 25 and 26, that west project may shrink. So we're okay with the east only being included.
Thank you, Don.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, may I?
Yes, sir.
So I appreciate when I looked at this project on its face, it was somewhat over 2 miles of sidewalk being installed, at least on its face. That's what it appeared to me. The project scored barely over 50, and the funding for this category, as Charles mentioned, was under $400,000. I assume that's per year, and so I realize that this has come through the committee as a recommendation. I guess my question to the TPC is this the best use of our federal aid money to fund simply because that this was the only complete streets project that was provided? And again, all due respect to our friends at Cedar Lake, is this really the best way to move forward with these funds?
Yeah, to emphasize the point, there's $370,000 available per year. And we're talking just with the east side, 1.7 million.
I just would like to point out the reason how I came up with that 1.7 is if anyone looks on the application, yes, sidewalks had $370,000, but this was the only project within complete streets. So I essentially added up all of the projects within the program of complete streets, which came up to $1,716,000. So, which is just shy of what their ask was. But like I said, this is only a start of a discussion, the start of the discussion. So,
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Dean Button again. I appreciate Mr. Bradsky pointing that out, and I have no further comments on this matter. Thank you for your chance to hear me.
I appreciate your comments. Anybody else with some concerns or comments?
This is Don again to defend it a little bit more. I mean, the STBG, I guess, funds allotted for each annual. I think it's sidewalks, ADA compliance.
Don, we're losing you.
Oh, better?
Yes.
I mean, the STBG funds that are allotted per, I guess, the funding allocations per year are not just sidewalks. I mean, they're also ADA compliance, like on-road trails. And I would argue that the sidewalk has a dabble in all of those. There is no walkway from basically the west side of the lake to the east side of the lake for any pedestrian traffic. And this is greatly needed for that to really increase accessibility throughout the town. So yes, while it's the only application in complete streets, I think it hits other funding allocations within complete streets applications, I guess.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, Dean Button again.
Mm-hmm. Please.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I'm not clear. I have no objection to this project.
Mm-hmm. I think it just helps clarify the overall position of our members and where we're coming from on these things. So hearing no other comments, are there any more comments or questions? Let's move on to the next category.
Excuse me, Kevin?
Yeah,
The
yes,
chat, it says from Kay Nelson, if not allocated, is the money returned or placed aside? Thank you.
Charles.
There is no comment on, I have no comment on that. So I guess the money would go towards other projects, and then the TPC could determine what projects it wanted to fund, whether it trickled down or trickled up.
This is Kay. Thank you for that answer. I just wanted to make sure if you don't use it, we lose it, would come into
Right.
play.
And I think that's our major concern, considering years ago, we were at the potential of losing money to some other region or part of the country. So we want to make sure it's spent here.
We are not losing that money.
No,
Thank you.
I
I
know.
will reprogram it somewhere.
We've been fighting for that for the last 5 years. We're not going to lose anything.
Can I ask, Charles, can I refresh my memory? This is Kathy. The different categories are based on the 2050 plan priorities, right? Like
Correct.
why the money is where it is. So it's not arbitrary. It came with pre-planning. So I would just
so
remind folks of that, but before we decide to just wash a category, which I know is not what's being discussed, but as we go through the whole list.
So if we decided to not fund this project, if DPC decided not to recommend this project, then it would be up to TPC to determine where this money would go towards. Would it go up to multi-use paths, or would it flow on down to trickle on down?
Any other discussion on this matter? Okay, let's move on to the next category.
Okay. The next category I would have here would be transit expansion. There was only one project that was recommended in there. That was $450,000. In that, there's $450,000 available in that, excuse me, $650,000. Sorry for that. And GPTC is requesting $1 million the first year and $900,000 for 2 years remaining after that. So yes, that could trickle down if the sidewalks didn't get, this would probably, if it trickled down, this would probably be the next project that would get funded. But there wasn't enough money in here to fund GPTC's expansion project to go into Hobart. Moving down would be quality of place. And in quality of place, we have the one project that the STC committee recommended get funded, and that was Cherville's phase 3 from Oak to Main Street. So this would bring this project closer to the suite of projects closer to being finalized. So therefore, there would be 3 of the 4 phases would be funded by this project, 2025. We have the local tracks project, bridge. And then there's a project in 2024, I believe. This project would be in 2025. And there would be one more project left in 2027 or thereabouts. It would get us closer to completing this legacy suite. I've also got it. We also have another legacy project, which is Lake Station. They have a quality of place and traffic calming. $750,000 again was the amount of funds we had available in there. And they're requesting $1 million. So that would get them close in 2026. They would have to come up with, and again, you know, if we, again, as I mentioned, this is all I could fund because that's all that's available and still keeping a constrained tip. However, we could, if more funds become available, that's definitely an option. And most times funds do become available. So this is an old legacy project. Federal Highway's been asking me and asking everyone, asking us, NERC and NDOT about this project. They started this project way back when, way before my time. And it started out as a roundabout. And then the city changed their idea, changed their mind. So they do have some funds on this project, and this would complete this project. That's for quality of place. Is there any discussion?
I think we've covered this in the past meetings pretty substantially, but are there any additional comments or questions?
On this project, I did talk with the designer. This is a funding category of HSIP, but I have some concerns that it would qualify for HSIP. I'm more than happy to submit it to NDOT on behalf of the city of Lake Station, but it may only qualify for STBG funds. So just to keep that in mind.
Well, please keep on that. So we have an answer from NDOT before much longer.
Well, once
Be helpful.
Once the program gets funded, then I can submit it for CMAQ or HSIP funding. HSIP funding I can submit anytime. CMAQ I'd have to wait till July to submit them, I believe, June or July. So everything right now, no matter how good of a safety project it is or whatever, if it's has air quality benefits or congestion management, if it's a slam dunk, it still goes into our tip as STBG for now until we get a clarification from NDOT. So just keep that in mind. Moving on would be roadway improvements, I believe. Let's see. Yeah, roadway improvements. Roadway and bridge improvements, I should say. As far as bridge improvements, there was one bridge. Lake County submitted one bridge. And I'm looking for that bridge. Here it is right here. Replacement of Lake County Bridge on Colorado Street over Deep River. We had 836,000 available, so they got the full funding. They are short. So again, it's one of these, if we had funds, more funds that became available, they would they would be in line for those additional funds. And I'd also need to point out that this project also scored a 45. So the same discussion could be had for this project that we had on the Cedar Lake project. So.
Dwayne, did you have any comments?
Well, no, I appreciate the opportunity to submit the application. And, you know, Lake County, we maintain over 180 bridges in the county off the state highway system, in the incorporated cities and towns and outside the incorporated cities and towns. And we have a priority list of bridges, and they are ranked. I think currently this one is ranked number 5 on our list for replacement. The other bridges in front of it are programmed in engineering in some way, shape, or form for replacement or rehabilitation. So, I mean, we can use the federal funds for this project. It always does help. So, I mean, your consideration is greatly appreciated, and we'd like to move forward with the project. And I know when I submitted the application on this, I don't think I submitted for PE or right away. And I did take some reduced funding on this just to try to maximize the score. So.
As many of you are aware, NDOT does have a funding category of local bridges, and they do fund local bridges, although I believe that funds come from Group 3 and Group 4. So my good friend Kathy McCallum doesn't like funding projects inside an urbanized area. She will if she needs to, and she does realize the need to improve the bridges throughout the state, whether they're in an urbanized area or not. However, she's mainly concerned with funding county bridges outside of urbanized areas. So at the last, in the last NOFA, we did not have any bridges until in the NOFA until probably 11th hour and 55 minute when we threw it in there. So, but we didn't have any funding in there for the bridges. So this is an attempt to rectify that and get bridges in our area, fund some bridges.
For the public, I don't think most people realize that the local bridges are under the responsibilities of the county commissioners in the county. So we brought back bridges just to help with that part of our transportation system and for consideration of the whole system. I think it's weighing very heavily on the county executives of all 3 of our counties of how to manage and take care of all these bridges. And they do a great job, including their engineers. Thank you, Dwayne.
No, thank you. And if I may just add, Mr. Chairman, this is Dwayne, Lake County Highway. Charles is 100% correct. NDOT does fund bridges through the local bridge fund, but most of the time it is stipulated outside of the urbanized areas. So we cannot apply inside the urbanized area. And we do participate in that. I think right now we have 3 bridges in that program outside the urbanized area. And Kathy Eaton McCallum, I think 2 years ago, she did open up some special funding for bridges. And we made application and we did get approved for funding for 45th Avenue over Hart Ditch in Munster. So we do make application for bridges to try to leverage the federal funds when we can. So once again, I do appreciate this opportunity and look forward to working with NERC on this. Thank you.
Moving on, the number 1, the highest scoring project was Valparaiso's intersection improvement at Lincoln and Campbell Roundabout. So that project was funded in 2025. The number 2 project scored ranking was Valparaiso's intersection improvement at 130. It's a roundabout at 130 in County Road 400 North or Vale Park Road. This would get another east-west corridor through Valparaiso. That is quickly becoming a heavily used corridor. We did give funding for this project, just PE in 2023. So there is this was intersection and congestion improvement. So this would be CMAQ funding. Looking up, let's see. Other projects that are recommended, it would be Main Street. This was Munster's project, Main Street from Columbia Avenue to Hart Ditch. This is pavement rehab or reconstruction. This project is $5 million. It's in would be put it in 2025. And PE in 2023. Let's see, what else do I have? The number 1 project in pavement or rehab, the highest scoring project, is East Chicago roadway reconstruction, Michigan Avenue from Sheridan to Block. Includes a road diet. They said that we could split this project. So this would create a legacy project. They asked for $6.3 million. And I granted them, I'm showing that they would get almost $3.6 million for one phase of this project. Let's see, the number, what else? Pavement rehab, number 3 project, I already discussed. Number 2 would be Hammond's project to reconstruct Summer Street, to finish the reconstruction of Summer Street in 2026. I believe the original first one in Summer Street is in 23 or 24. So this would finish this project and take a legacy project off from our books. That's $3.7 million. I do have there was one project by Chesterton. Chesterton's the lead on this project. This is much like the Maryville project, where multiple agencies came together and are putting emergency preemptive on several signals throughout Porter County. I believe this is going to be in Porter, Chesterton, Burns Harbor maybe, and I'm not sure who else is in there, but this is, they're requesting $1.6 million. So this would allow all the emergency vehicles, give them green lights on the way to and to the hospitals, to and from the calls. Let's see, what else? Another high scoring project is Griffith's Broad Street and H intersection roundabout. This is a safety project. They did get it scored number, it was the second highest one on an intersection safety. And they were given PE funding in 2023. This would create a legacy project. Maryville has two projects. One is, these were scored 3 and 4. The higher the one, in an intersection congestion improvement. This is at Mississippi Street and 79th Avenue. It would be a dog bone roundabout. So there's 2 roundabouts there. This is 3.9 million funding. Now, in this category, there's $1.8 million. And I'm not, we're borrowing from another category. We may want to, if we want to discuss that, we can. And then PE funding for Mississippi and 69th intersection roundabout in 2024. And I believe that's it for group 1. Is there any discussion on any of these projects?
Charles, can I ask a question?
Yes.
Regarding the Cheston project, that was 7 fire departments, just to clarify. I think I spoke earlier. We were looking for the PE at this time, and we can shrink or expand the project depending on each municipality's funding it later on in the NOFA, later on in future cycles. So if there's any way to fund at least PE, we would appreciate it.
Actually, I did give you PE. I didn't mention it. I have PE in 2023.
Okay, I did not see that.
So
can you wait till 2023?
Yes, we can.
Thank you.
Yep.
Excellent.
Yeah, thank you very much.
I have some HSIP and CMAQ funds, I believe, in 2023 available. So, therefore I had HSIP and STBG funds available in 2023. So I was able to get those funds there for you. Any other comments?
Let's move on, Charles.
In group 2, we have LaPorte had asked for emergency vehicle preemption at 1 or 2 signals. So they were asking for $33,000. So there is plenty of room. I may regret saying this. There's plenty of room for this project to expand. Yeah, I may regret saying that. I hate seeing scope creep, but anyway.
And we're not encouraging it.
Right. There was another project in that LaPorte County had replaced a bridge, superstructure on a bridge. They were asking for $2.5 million. And group 2 only gets $2 million on that. So they are, when I talked, last time I had talked to LaPorte County, actually when we had our T-Rock meeting, I believe they were fine with this, not getting this bridge funded. Moving on, the last category then would be new roadways. And SDC had recommended for 2 of the new roadways to be funded. The first one being Porter County's Willow Creek extension for phase one. I have that, that's $5.2 million, and I have that in 2026. And then SCC also recommended that St. John's Klein Avenue PE get funded at $560,000, which I have in 2025. So that would create a legacy project.
Any questions or comments for Charles? If not, let's move on.
Okay, moving on. The last project is LaPorte in LaPorte counties. PE for the north-south corridor, phase one. I have this, they asked for $935,000 for PE, but we only had $847,000 available for, so that one is in there for a recommendation for PE in 2025. LaPorte still has to jump through a couple of hoops, so I'm happy. And Nick and I have talked about this project, and so they know that they have some work to do before they can tap into these funds. So we can, you know, if they do get that work done, then they could actually probably slide some of this money up forward and get their full funding.
Any other comments or questions? Does that conclude your report?
That concludes my report, yes. Unless there was something I missed.
Well, that's up to the committee. Do you have anything that you still want discussed, or is somebody ready to make a motion? Let's separate these between group one and group two.
Mr. Chair, this is David Wright, GPTC. Before we get into approving these, I was wondering whether or not we could get a status on the transit projects.
Charles?
Looking at transit, and Kathy, Luther, and I are busy working in there, are working through the transit. We have a total available funding in 2025 and 26. We have 5307 funds at 12 million, almost $12.5 million. 5310s, we have 469, almost $470,000. 5337, $15.5 million. And 5339, we have $569,000. So we still have some work to do, but because the total requests for all of the transit is 20 million in 2025 for 5307 funds, I should say. And as you can see, how everything breaks down. I was able to balance out 5310 funds. 5337 is only available to NICD. So we have some, they have those funds. There's a couple projects that may not get, but we're working with that. And then 5339, we've pretty much got all those funds. There's just a few $1,000s left. In 2026, we are $8 million short for 5307 funds. And then again, 5310, I balanced out. 5337 is about $19 million short. And then there are plenty of funds in 5339. 5339 is bus and bus facilities. So that's where I'm at with that. David, I still have some questions for you. I left a voicemail and maybe we can talk after this meeting. There were some of I was working on your couple of your projects, and I had a question on how much funding is needed. So
Okay, yeah,
this is
I've
where
been
we
out
sit
of the
for.
office. Okay,
What's
I've
that?
been out of the office since I've been out of the office since Wednesday. So, yeah, so you may have put it, left that voicemail while I was out. My follow-up is, has FTA, FHWA, and NDOT been apprised of the lag when it comes to the process, when it comes to the transit projects? Because I'm wondering whether or not, without some kind of dialogue with state and federal officials, if we're setting ourselves up by approving just everything else except for the projects in the transit program.
I have to have the tip submitted, a draft tip submitted to NDOT by this Friday. So I'm busy working on transit.
This is Kathy. We're thinking about maybe trying to get a transit call together after we've gone through all of this. And there's still plenty of time to catch up on the official end because we're not actually taking this for approval. We're not even taking it out for public comment till March. So we still have time, David. I don't think we're in any danger of slippage from getting everything passed and approved by the time it's needed.
Okay, so the STPG, basically FHWA projects actually are going to go in, getting the opportunity to go in front of TPC and get formal action, but TPC will not actually see any of the transit projects except for the couple that were in today's presentation. I just have grave concerns that this is going to bite the MPO process in the tail in the future. I mean, I understand the position that that Charles and Kathy are in, but in creating two separate tracks that are modally bifurcated, we might end up, having to be called to the carpet. And I'm not sure if it'll be during triennial or if it'll be during during certification, but at some point this is going to have to come up.
I should clarify that because Transit Operators Roundtable is not an official committee, that group would not be making a recommendation. That would just be like to discuss things in it, and then we'd have to figure out how to get it to TPC in time to catch up.
I just wanted my
Nope. I hear what you're saying, and we're still trying to talk that through internally how we can make that process work.
Okay.
And I have every faith they will, David.
Yeah,
no, I've got the faith that they will. It's just that
I understand.
The process is hinky.
Yep.
We've built in a little bit of room for slippage just to be safe. I think we're okay.
And regardless, we still have a deadline.
Mr. Chairman, this is Dean Button.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion that the TPC approve the slate of projects as presented with a favorable recommendation to the full commission.
That's for group one?
For group one, yes, sir.
Do I have a second?
This is Mark Odell for Chesterton. I'll second the motion.
Any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Ma'am.
That's okay. This is Rachel Caesar from the city of Gary. I want to make sure I didn't miss, did we discuss funding for the 15th Avenue construction project in Gary for 2024?
Actually, we did not. I pulled that project forward. I had to give everybody a little background, I had a project in 2022 that had slipped. And so that project, and it was $7 million, moved out of the tip and actually is a legacy project now. And they will apply in for the next NOFA for funding for that project. And it may be smaller, maybe, who knows? But anyway, that project was $7 million and it has moved out. The LPA was able to move 2 other projects forward, much smaller projects forward. And that still gave us $3 million available in 2022. Now that is probably too quick to use those funds. So I have been working with Kathy McCallop, excuse me. Ooh, sorry. And she has, we've come to, she has agreed to swap those funds. So I am, and give me those funds in 2024. And that's where I propose putting the Gary project in there. Yes. So yes, that project is in 2024. Yes, I did not discuss that one. So let's see. So yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Rachel. Are we good to go, Charles?
Yes, there. Okay. So yeah, one of those other projects I was moving from this NOFA to 2022 because it was ready, and the other project was this project in Gary that I moved in 2024. I do need to show that, and I do show it on my spending plan. So, but I do not show it on this, so I do need to put that project in here. I will do that right now. So there it is. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. And one other item I want to point out was I also in group 2, as we may or may remember, group 2 does not get enough. The transit companies in group 2 in LaPorte County do not get enough funding for operating assistance. So therefore, not only do they not get enough funding for operating assistance, but then they rely on highway funds for bus replacement. So therefore, I do have 2 buses for the city of LaPorte Transport and 2 buses for Michigan City. In 2026, and LaPorte gets a bus each year. So those are coming out of STBG funds or CMAQ funds. So that's how that is. So
do the first and second agree to the just amended plan that we put forward?
Yes, sir. First.
How about the second?
Mr. Odell?
Mark?
Yes.
Thank you so much. We have a first and a second on the group 1 plan. We'll have a roll call vote. And this is for a favorable recommendation and approval. Floor, can you call roll, please?
Yes. Kevin Britsky,
Yes.
Mark Odell,
Yes.
thank you. Dean Button,
Yes.
thank you. Matt Murphy,
Yes.
thank you. David Wright,
No.
okay. Blossom Maybon,
Yes.
thank you. Beth Schrader,
Yes.
thank you. Kelly Wenger,
Yes.
Kelly, thank you. And Kay Nelson,
Yes.
let's see. And that concludes roll call to, I'm sorry, the voting to 8.
Thank you very much. Could we have a motion on the group 2 projects?
Mr. Chairman, this is Dean Button. I would make a motion to approve the Group 2 projects at the Technical Planning Committee and make a favorable recommendation to the full commission.
Do I have a second?
This is Mark Odell. I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Mark. Any other comment or question? Hearing none, let's have another roll call.
Okay. I'm sorry, I forgot to call Beth West in the previous. Is that okay if I call her name?
Sure, let's call her.
Beth West?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Sorry
Thank
about
you.
that. All right, let's start from the top. Kevin Britsky,
Yes.
thank you. Mark Odell,
Yes.
thank you. Dean Button,
Yes.
thank you. Matt Murphy,
Yes.
thank you. David Wright,
Yes.
thank you. Blossom Maybon,
Yes.
thank you. Beth Schrader,
Yes.
thank you. Beth West,
Yes.
thank you. Kelly Wenger, Kelly Wenger, Kay Nelson,
Yes.
thank you. And that concludes that as well.
Okay. And the results?
8, 9, 8. No, 9, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Flora.
Thank you.
So moved. Do we have any topical committee reports today? Start with Kathy.
The NPC did not meet in February, but I would like to use my time to draw attention. I put a question in the chat to see if TPC would be willing to consider an additional call to review of the transit tip, possibly. I was thinking February 18th. That would give us, it's after the draft has to go to the NDOT, but before anything gets released for public comment. And it's the 18th, morning of the 18th would be a commission meeting, but there isn't one scheduled. So I just wanted to get the feeling of the group if that would be possible for a call. So then we could recommend everything together to the board in March or April.
Any comments from anybody? I'm available.
I dropped it in the chat, but I will make myself available, and I think this is a good idea.
Mr. Chairman, this is Dean Button.
Yes.
I am not available that morning.
Okay, we'll miss you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Mr. Chairman, can I ask Kathy, what time were you thinking?
I hadn't gotten that far so far, but commission's usually at 9, but this meeting's usually at 10. I was just thinking that a percentage of folks that participated commission would have it sort of kind of blocked off other calendar, but we can be flexible on that. I think, is there a specific time that works better for
Would you
you,
prefer morning or afternoon as a group?
Mr. Chairman,
This is
I can,
David. Go ahead.
I can meet after 10 a.m. Sorry, I already have a 9
Okay.
o'clock conflict that morning, but I'm available the rest of the day after 10.
Okay.
I would suggest, this is David, I would suggest 10 o'clock just to be
Mhm.
consistent with
Yeah.
TPC's usual meeting time.
Anybody else?
This is Kay, and somewhere I lost my, what date are we talking about?
The 18th, Thursday.
Next week, date.
Yeah.
Correct.
I'm getting my COVID vaccine on the 18th in the afternoon. So if it's in the first thing in the morning, I'm good. If not,
Okay.
otherwise I'll miss you.
We're
It's
looking
10
at
o'clock.
10.
Okay.
So it's done. We'll meet 10 o'clock on a Zoom call on Thursday, the 18th.
Um,
And we'll send out the agenda shortly.
okay. Thank you.
How about any other topical committee reports?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Ped Pedal and Paddle did not meet, but we will be meeting next month in March on the 4th. I will not be in the office in April. We'll take care of that on the 4th. As for other news, yesterday we received our latest shipment of bike and ped maps, and we are now in the process of distributing them regionally. I will be contacting the municipalities directly about what to do regarding picking up your copies. We have less copies this year to work with, so we're just trying to make sure we get everybody their copies and do so in a equitable fashion. So when you get your email, you'll get instructions on how to pick them up. If you're a municipality, we intend to deliver to libraries and retail stores that have supported the map in the past. And also the update too, we are creating a mobile app as well. We hope to get that rolled out in March or April, and we'll also be in touch with you about information regarding possible business locations and bicycle tours if you want to add to the actual app and its functionality for people in this region to use and to enjoy.
Do we have any other topical committee reports from the commission?
Yes, this is Iman.
Yes.
I'm just reporting about the land use committee that was held on January 7th. In the last committee, we had recommendations for roadway expansion projects and also for the planning projects. We had to make some minor changes to the scoring, and we made a final recommendation to TPC. We also had a presentation about the TOD funding projects that we are established at NERPC. And we had some discussion about the boundary of the TOD. And first, we decided to go with the TDD boundary for all the train station. However, as I looked at some of the recommendation came from the RDA and from their consultant, they went beyond the half a mile. So we're still considering the TDD for funding, but any area within the half a mile of a transit stop or a bus stop. We also had recommendations of adding additional bus stop based on a request from GPTC. And we added like 3 more stations at Broadway and 11th in Gary. And also we added the Broadway and Central Plaza in Maryville, and also the bus stop at in East Chicago at the 4700 Indianapolis Boulevard intersection. So we added this. We had some discussion about the methodology and how we select the stops. And I sent later after the meeting some explanation about the methodology and how we came up with these stations. So that's all the discussion we had at the Land Use Committee, and that's conclude my report.
On January 31st, the Times had a really good article about the transit stations in Portage, Miller, East Chicago, etc.
Mhm.
So it's worthwhile to go back in the paper. That was on the 31st. It was Sunday's Times.
Yes. I saw
Anything
that.
else from
Thank
the
you.
topical committee report perspective?
No, Surface Transportation Committee did not meet, and our next meeting will be in, I believe it said May on the agenda, but I think we're going to have to meet in April to review some of the final prerequisites for some of these projects that we just agreed to.
I think we lost Kevin. He seems to no longer be on the participant list.
Okay. I guess I will sit in. Charles, do you have a question?
No, I don't have a question. I just wanted to let everybody know that I will get this list out to everybody within the next couple of days. So everybody can see, get a better idea of what was funded and what's been funded.
Okay. I think Kevin keeps on getting kicked out. So not sure what's going on there, but Kevin, are you there? Just making sure. Okay. So I will ask, is there any other topical committee reports? I think we've exhausted that.
T-Rock has none.
T-Rock has none. Okay. All right. So moving on, are there any reports from regional partners? Are there any regional partners that would like to talk at this time, either CMAP or Clean Cities or any other group have any comments to make at this time? Is Lori there?
Yes, I'm here.
Did you have anything or you're just happy to be here?
Both. Thank you. Very briefly, I did want to report that our 2020 annual report was released, and of the $9.3 million in grant funds that South Shore Clean Cities helped our stakeholders to acquire, I wanted to report that 7.4 million of those, or 80%, were within the NERC region. So I think that's something that that we can celebrate and be thankful for. I think that's an awfully good return on investment for our partnerships with NERC, no matter how you look at that. So thank you to all of our partners for that. Quick Volkswagen committee update. They met on January 13th, so the day after the last TPC meeting, and awarded the DARA option grants totaling 2.3 million. All 6 of those were written by South Shore Clean Cities for our members and partners, and 4 were for companies located within the Port of Indiana Burns Harbor. So again, more wins for NERC. Round 3 of the on-road and non-road grants for the VW grants are expected to be open for applications in March. If you're interested, please talk to South Shore Clean Cities now. It's always best to be grant ready before that RFP for a grant is released. Also, US EPA DARA grant fundings are grant funds are accepting applications through March 16th. Again, if you're interested in that, please talk to us ASAP. That is a bit of an involved grant application process. We are hosting a webinar from 1 to 2 p.m. February 24th on sustainable ports and goods movement. Sean Seals from IDEM will be presenting. Best time to ask him questions about a grant opportunity is before the RFP is out there. So good opportunity to get in and talk to him a little bit. You can register for that on southshorecleancities.org. And lastly, wearing my Partners for Clean Air Northwest Indiana hat, they are awarding up to 3 scholarships for seniors in the NERC region, so Lake Porter and LaPorte counties, of up to $2,500 each. And those applications are due March 31st. You can talk to me about those for details. And I'm going to put my email in the chat. Partners for Clean Air is also accepting nominations for their awards, and those are due March 26th. that's it. I think it's all good news. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori, and thank you, Mitch. I'm back. I had blue screen there for a while. Do we have anything more from planning partners? Can anybody hear me?
Oh, no, we hear you loud and clear. Just
Okay, good. I want to make sure I turned everything back on.
everybody's content right now.
Excellent. Do we have anything more from any planning partners? I didn't hear anything. Any other business, staff announcements? Speak up now. The next NERC Executive Board meeting will be March 18th at 9 o'clock. And of course, we just scheduled another TPC meeting, and then tentatively, we'll still plan on having a meeting Tuesday, March 9th at 10 o'clock. Anything else that's good for the order? Hearing nothing, I'm going to adjourn the meeting. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, everyone.
Have a good day.